If we wanted our kids to be losers, we would have named them Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 41 of Movies Are Awesome, the show all about computers. My name is Nathan Pottle, and thank you so much for joining me today. And allow me to wish you a happy new year. It is now 2020, and with a new year and a new decade, we have a whole bunch of new movies to look forward to. I'm super excited about a bunch of them, so I have made a list. I was going through and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should do just a top 5 or maybe I should do a top 10. Instead, I've got 20 movies here that are coming out this year. I've got them in order of release date. So I will talk about what day they're supposed to be released and how excited I am for them, kind of what the movie is supposed to be about for anyone who's not familiar with these movies. So here I go. I've got 20 of them. Why don't I just get started right away? I don't have anything for January, and I don't have anything for February. The first movie that I'm really looking forward to this year comes out on March 6th, and that is Onward. Now, this, of course, is the new Pixar movie. It's got Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, and they play two brothers whose dad has passed away a long time ago, and it takes place in this world of, like, fantasy creatures, but it's in, like, a modern-day setting almost. So they've got, like, phones and cars and all these things. So their dad has passed away, but he gave them a magic staff that can bring him back to life for one day, but it goes wrong, and they go on a mission to try and fully bring their dad back to life so that they have a chance to meet him, because they only get 24 hours with their dad, and then he goes away again, like back into the afterlife, or however it works. I am super excited for this movie. Pixar is just excellent. They make fantastic movies. There's not too many Pixar movies out there that are not very good. I've mentioned it before, but Cars 2 is not good. I don't like Brave very much. Monsters University and Finding Dory are kind of weaker films, but other than that, they're pretty solid through and through. Also, Cars 3 is not amazing. Just the Cars franchise is a bit of a misfire in my opinion, but some people really like it, and Cars Land in Disneyland is just fantastic. Even if you don't like the Cars movies like me, going to Cars Land is a lot of fun, super cool. Radiator Springs Racers is a super fun ride. Go check that out. If you're ever in California, just go check out California Adventure and Cars Land. I think it's pretty cool. But Onward looks really cool. I'm not super impressed with the animation style. I don't think it looks as real or as polished as something like Coco or Toy Story 4. But I think it's still going to be pretty fun. It does look a little more cartoony, but I think it's still going to be emotional and heartfelt, and I'm super looking forward to it. So Onward is the first movie on my list that I'm super looking forward to. Next, on March 20th, we get A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, they just released the first full trailer for this movie, and the trailer, it was fine. I liked it, but it didn't really super bring me into it, and the only reason it's on my list here is because I really enjoyed the first movie quite a bit. It was the first movie directed by John Krasinski, and he was starring in it with his wife, Emily Blunt, and these other kids. I don't know their names. But it was a good movie, kind of a fun concept, and I'm very interested to see where the story goes from how the first movie ended. And this first trailer did kind of show where things are going to go, kind of what the story is going to be like, and I was interested in it. I think that I'm definitely going to go watch it. I'll have to rewatch the first one because I haven't seen it since it first came out. I only saw it in theaters. So I'll check out A Quiet Place and then go watch Quiet Place Part 2 again. I'm very excited for that movie. The next movie, also coming out in March on the 27th, I'm super excited for this one, and that is Mulan. Now, I like the animated movie a whole lot. I like Mulan very, very much. So I'm very interested to see what's going to be different between the animated one and this one. The live-action Mulan will not be featuring the dragon Mushu, and it's also not a musical. And I'm fine with both of those things as long as everything else is kind of on point, especially from a storytelling perspective. It definitely looks like there's some kind of magic going on in this movie. There's some kind of sorceress and people running up walls in the trailer, but the visuals in the trailer have been very cool. I like the use of music a lot. And I also like that it's a lot of unknown talent in this movie, like a lot of Asian performers that we're not super familiar with. So I'm excited to see all of these new people in this movie of a story I'm familiar with. And generally, the Disney remakes have been fine to good. Like, they're not really terribly awful for the most part. So I'm excited for Mulan. I'm gonna go check it out when it comes out, and hopefully it's good. Like all of these movies that I'm listing, I want to be good. I'm not really ever rooting for a movie to be bad unless it's some kind of movie that has just a stupid message that shouldn't even be made in the first place. But for the most part, I want all of these movies to be good. I'm looking forward to them. The next movie on my list, I'm very curious about because it was supposed to come out like a long time ago. Like, I think at least a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember the original release date, but on April 3rd, we are supposed to be getting New Mutants, which is like a haunted house X-Men movie. And it's got Anya Taylor-Joy from Split, and she's in a couple other things. She's in The Witch. And it's got the girl who plays Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. What is her name? Maisie Williams, that's her name. So it's got those two, it's got a bunch of other people. It's about these young kids who are just discovering their mutant powers, and they're living in this house or insane asylum or something. I haven't read the original comic it's based off of, so I'm just going off of kind of what I have heard about it. And it sounds really cool and really interesting. And then they kind of reshot it entirely. Now, I've heard it was shot to make it more scary. I've also heard it was reshot because it was too scary. And I don't know what's going on with this movie at all. So purely based off of all of the rings that it's had to go through and like all of the reshoots and this whole like Disney buying Fox debacle, I don't know what to expect from this movie, but I'm very curious. It's one of those movies that has just been on the shelf for a long time and reworked and reworked and reworked. And I'm so curious to see what the final product is. Because sometimes a movie can go through a bunch of reshoots and turn out awful, like Justice League. But sometimes a movie can go through a bunch of reshoots and turn out really good, like World War Z. They pretty much reshot the entire film of World War Z, and it turned out really good. I like that movie a lot. With a lot of big blockbusters, they actually schedule reshoots, so generally it's not something that's even a problem. Like when The Lord of the Rings came out, they shot all 3 movies at once and then scheduled pickups, I think Peter Jackson called it. And these pickups were purposefully scheduled so that when they sat down in the editing room and they saw what they have and they saw like, okay, like this maybe doesn't work, let's rewrite a new scene or change things slightly, or we didn't quite get the right shot, let's go back and get something. And those movies turned out fantastic. I love Lord of the Rings. I just did a all-day marathon of the theatrical cuts just a couple days ago, and it was amazing. It was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. I will always be down for sitting down to watch Lord of the Rings, whether theatrical or extended. I prefer extended, but because I was watching The Lord of the Rings with some people who had never seen them before, I always want to introduce people to the theatrical cuts first and then to the extended editions, just because that's how the world was introduced to the movies, and it's also a little more digestible because they're not quite as long. They're still long, but not quite as long as the extended edition. So that's how I like to introduce people to The Lord of the Rings. How did I get onto this topic? I don't even know. But I was talking about the New Mutants. Oh yeah, I was talking about reshoots. That's how I got there. Marvel movies is another example where they have scheduled reshoots to just like polish off and fix things in the movies. And Marvel movies are usually pretty good. So in general, reshoots isn't something that we should be worried about, but in something that's on the level of New Mutants or World War Z, there's reason to be cautious about it. So New Mutants comes out April 3rd. I'm interested to see what that's going to be like. April 10th, we've got No Time to Die, which is the next James Bond movie. And the only reason I'm interested in this movie at all is because it seems like there's a pattern for the Daniel Craig James Bonds of being really good, really bad, really good, really bad. So we had Casino Royale, which is actually my favorite James Bond movie, and that movie's amazing. And then we had Quantum of Solace, which is not that good. And then we had Skyfall, which is really good. And then we had Spectre, which is really bad. So now with No Time to Die, this is the fifth one. So it looks like it's due to be really good. I hope it's really good. I like that trailer a lot. And we'll see. I think this is Daniel Craig's last time as James Bond, which is fine because Casino Royale came out in 2006, I want to say. So that's like almost 15 years of being James Bond. He's ready to do new things. He was just in Knives Out and he was fantastic in it. So let him go do other things. He's a talented actor and he doesn't want to always just be James Bond. So let him go do other things. But No Time to Die comes out April 10th. Looks really good. I want to see it. May 1st, we get the Marvel movie Black Widow. Also a trailer I really enjoyed and I'm looking forward to. Kevin Feige has just proved at this point that he knows what he's doing and he's got his Marvel Cinematic Universe figured out. I have expressed concerns before that I think with the Disney Plus shows and the movies, it's going to get to be a lot. Like, we're getting multiple shows a year and multiple movies a year. I think it's going to be a lot to keep up with. I think also after the kind of end of Endgame, how it kind of closed things off on the Infinity Saga, I think a lot of people are going to start dropping off of these movies, saying like, okay, well, like, we've kept up to this point, but now the story is done. And this new story is a good jumping on point for a lot of people. But I think for a lot of other people, it's going to just be kind of whatever. And they're going to either stop watching or just like not care so much anymore. But Black Widow, I'm looking forward to. I really like this character a lot. She's been around since Iron Man 2 back in 2010. So it's about time that she's getting her own movie. I think she really deserves it. And we'll see how it kind of fills in some of the gaps of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. On May 29th, we are getting Artemis Fowl. Now, I'm very interested in Artemis Fowl because I read the books as a kid. I don't remember really what they're about, but I remember really enjoying them. I'm going to reread the first book before the movie comes out. I'm a pretty avid reader. I like reading books, so I'm going to read Artemis Fowl before the movie comes out, sorry. And this is about a boy genius who is super rich and he's just like he's kind of like Tomb Raider almost, but super, super smart and like has arch enemies and there's like fairies and magic in the world at the same time too. It's a mix of a whole bunch of different things and that's really all I know. I'm just hoping that this Artemis Fowl is a better adaptation than what was that Disney movie that came out last year that nobody went to go watch? I can't even remember what it's called now. A Wrinkle in Time. I'm hoping that Artemis Fowl is not just another A Wrinkle in Time, because I would be very upset about that, especially because it's a movie I'm actually looking forward to. I had no expectations for A Wrinkle in Time. I actually still haven't even seen it, but maybe I'll sit down and watch it one day. But I just heard that it was no good and kind of boring and just not really much of a story. And I just want better for Artemis Fowl because it's kind of a more established property. I had never heard of A Wrinkle in Time until the movie was being made, and Artemis Fowl is something I've known about for a long time. So I'm hoping that it's going to be good, and we'll find out. June 5th is another movie that I'm interested in. I wouldn't say excited about, but more curious about, and that is Wonder Woman 1984. That trailer was absolutely crazy. It really leans heavy into letting you know that it's a movie from the 80s. So, like, it just, like, 80s stuff. And I'm concerned that this movie is gonna put nostalgia over everything else. And I don't really want that because that's exactly what Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker did, is it was nostalgia above all. And that movie didn't work for me at all. I don't like it. I think it's bad. I think that the story is not there because it's too busy saying, hey, remember this Star Wars thing that you like? Hey, this is remember this Star Wars thing? And I don't want that. I don't want Wonder Woman 1984 to just be like, oh, here's an 80s thing. Oh, remember this thing from the 80s? I don't want that at all. So hopefully that's not what this movie is, but I'm worried that it will be, just because that's exactly what that trailer was telling me. And it's fine to have nostalgia in movies. It's fine. I'm okay with it, but not to the detriment of the other storytelling aspects. A good example of this is the movie Ready Player One, where it's actually about nostalgia, and like the dangers of just always looking back and like keeping your head in the past and not in the present. That's what the story is about. So in that case, it's a little bit different, but I'm concerned about Wonder Woman 1984, but I'm probably still going to go watch it and hopefully enjoy it. I want it to be good. June 19th, we get another Pixar movie. I'm super excited for this one, and that is Soul. If you haven't seen the trailer, please go check it out. I am not even going to tell you what it's about because I want you to go like experience the trailer for yourself. The animation looks beautiful. I'm very excited for this movie, so go check out the trailer for Soul. I'm not going to linger on it other than I'm very excited for this movie. After Soul, we get Top Gun Maverick on June 26th. Now, Top Gun is actually my dad's favorite movie of all time. He thinks it's just fantastic. I really like Top Gun. I think it's pretty good. I am concerned about like having a sequel so long after, but we have seen that it can work. A wonderful example is Blade Runner 2049, which I think is actually better than the original Blade Runner. So Top Gun Maverick might be as good or better than the original Top Gun. We'll see. The trailer looks like it is leaning heavy into nostalgia for the first film. So just like with Wonder Woman 1984, I'm concerned because they have like people playing beach volleyball in just a pair of jeans, and that was fun and good in the first movie, but I don't think I need to see it again. So we'll see what Top Gun Maverick has to say. The aerial shots of the airplanes and the fighter jets like flying around, I really like that. I'm really big into aeronautics. I like airplanes a lot. And so seeing them fly around and all the different angles and stuff, I'm all for that. But we'll see if the story is there at all and kind of what's going on. And Tom Cruise, like he commits to his roles. So even if the movie itself is not spectacular, at least Tom Cruise will be there 100%, and I'll be okay with that. I'm going to move on, though, into July. I've got 3 movies in July. On July 17th, we've got Tenet, which is the new movie by Christopher Nolan. It's some kind of afterlife time travel cop movie. I don't know if the main character is actually dead or not. I don't think so. I think that they just fake his death, and then they introduce him to this time travel technology. But he could be actually dead. Who knows? But I feel like that's a concept that Christopher Nolan wouldn't play with. So we'll see if I'm right or not. That's just a theory. But the trailer looked really good. Obviously, his visual style and like the cinematographers that he works with are always on point. His movies always look really good and really dynamic. And his stories are usually on point. Sometimes I don't like his stories as much. Like I've said before, I don't like Interstellar and I don't like The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I just think they're bad movies. But Dunkirk was fantastic. I'm really looking forward to Tenet. Looks really good. Christopher Nolan doesn't do movies in 3D, so I like that a lot. He does as much visual effects in camera as possible, so I'm also looking forward to that. And we'll see what this movie is about. We have very little information on what this movie is about, but I'm very excited about the possibilities of what it could be. So on July 17th, we're getting Tenet. And then on the week after, July 24th, we're getting the Jungle Cruise movie. Now, Jungle Cruise is based off of the Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland and Disney World. If you have not ridden on it, it's pretty fun. It's all about like lame animal puns and jokes and stuff. And it's got The Rock and Emily Blunt in it. Looks pretty fun. Looks like they're putting a lot of money into it, that's for sure. They built, I think it was one of the largest sets ever built for a movie. There was some kind of video that they released where The Rock and Emily Blunt were talking, and then the drone zooms back and like high into the sky to show like this huge set that they built. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm hoping that the movie is good. If nothing else, it'll at least be fun. And bad movies can be fun. So like even if I enjoy myself, it's still a bad movie, that's just how it is, I guess. This next movie though, July 31st, I'm very weary about. And the only reason it's on this list is because I want to talk about what is this movie supposed to be, and that is Morbius. And it has, what is his name? He won the Academy Award for Dallas Buyers Club. He was Jared Leto. He was the Joker that nobody liked. I kind of liked Jared Leto's Joker. A lot of people hate on it. I think it was fine, but he had nothing to do in the movie Suicide Squad, and Suicide Squad is also the worst movie I've ever seen. So that's what he has going against it. It's just a horrible movie. And if you haven't seen Suicide Squad, I do not recommend it because it's just so bad. There's no fun there. It's horrible, and I don't like it. And Morbius is, I think it's part of the Sony superhero movie, so I think it's supposed to be connected to Venom, but I'm not 100% sure. Morbius is one of those Spider-Man villains that Sony owns, so they're making like its own movie. So we'll see what it is, but if you're not familiar, Morbius is a Marvel character who is a vampire, and he is a Spider-Man villain, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just so interested because they got Jared Leto, who was very much hated for his role as the Joker, and we'll see what else comes of it. So Morbius in end of July, like obviously they have some kind of faith in it because they're releasing it in the summer, and then Venom 2 comes out later in the year. It's not on my list though, but Venom 2 does come out in 2020, but it's not on my list for movies I'm most excited about. On September 18th, we get The King's Man, and that is a prequel to Kingsman, the Secret Service. I really like that movie a lot. Kingsman 2, The Golden Disappointment, is not very good at all. I think it's pretty bad, but I like the first one a lot, and it looks like this one is taking on more of a serious tone. It's got Ralph Fiennes in it. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it is. It takes place in either World War I or World War II. Can't remember which one, but it looks interesting, and we'll see. But this next movie, oh my goodness, really looking forward to this one. On October 9th, we're getting The Death on the Nile. Now, this movie is the continuation of Murder on the Orient Express with Kenneth Branagh, who directed and starred in it, playing Poirot. I do not know how to pronounce his first name the way they say it in the movie, so I'm not even going to try, but Inspector Poirot, who is kind of like a Sherlock Holmes detective type character. It's very, very good, and I liked that Murder on the Orient Express movie a lot. I think visually it's just spectacular, and like the performances were all really good. The way the story unfolded, I think that Murder on the Orient Express was made as if you already know how it ends, because it's a pretty famous ending. If you don't know, I will not give away like who the murderer is, but I think it was approached from a standpoint of, okay, people are going into this movie knowing how it ends, so let's just focus on it being a really good movie as opposed to focusing on the big reveal. And I think that really worked for it. I'm hoping that Death on the Nile is not approached in that same way, because I actually have no idea about any other Poirot story other than Murder on the Orient Express. So I'm hoping that it's just a really good continuation, still a really good story, and a really good murder, and a really good like puzzle to try and figure out. I'm super excited. I actually thought that this movie was coming out last year, so when I found out it wasn't coming out until 2020, I was super disappointed because I want to watch it so bad. So October 9th, Death on the Nile. On October 16th, we get Halloween Kills, which is the continuation of these new Halloween movies. 2018, we got Halloween. Yeah, October of 2018, we got Halloween, and I liked that movie a lot. I think it's my favorite of the Halloween movies that I've seen. I haven't seen them all, but I think it was really good. Really had a lot of parallels and homages to the first movie, but while still being its own thing. It was I felt it was a really good balance between those two. So this new one, Halloween Kills, and then I think next year we get Halloween Ends, I think it's called. So they're filming them at the same time, and we'll get this new like trilogy of Halloween movies, which is supposed to be like the definitive ending of how these stories are supposed to go. We'll see how it is, but I really liked the first one, and we'll see how it continues on. On November 6th, we get The Eternals, which is another Marvel movie. Very curious to see how this one goes. Who's directing this movie? Oh, I can't remember her name. Why can't I remember? It's supposed to be good though. We'll see how it goes. November 6th, The Eternals. I have very little information on this one actually. I'm not super familiar with the characters or anything, so That one's pretty boring. All you need to know though is I'm looking forward to it, so you can too if you want, or if you don't like Marvel movies, that's also fine. On November 20th, we get Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm pretty excited for this one. If you listened to my review from earlier this year, I actually didn't like Godzilla King of the Monsters very much. I thought it was a huge disappointment, but the Godzilla from 2014 and Kong Skull Island I both really enjoyed. So 2 out of 3 is still pretty good, and I have high hopes for this Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm hoping it ties things together pretty well. I'm hoping the visuals are crazy. I'm hoping it's a really awesome fight. I hope that they don't become friends at the end. I hope that their moms don't have the same name, because that would be really stupid. And who would want to watch something like that? I wouldn't, I'll tell you that. So Godzilla vs. Kong on November 20th. This next movie I also have very little information on. All I know is the title and the release date. And it is Raya and the Last Dragon, comes out on November 25th. It is a Disney Animation Studios production. We'll see how it is. Generally their original stuff has been pretty good, like Frozen, Moana, Zootopia. Movies like that have been pretty good. I really liked Frozen 2. Wreck-It Ralph 2 was awful. Didn't like it one bit. Thought it was a super bad movie. So, but for the most part, Disney Animation Studios puts out good content. I enjoy the high quality of animation. I enjoy the heartfelt stories that they do. So Raya and the Last Dragon, we'll see how it is. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't even know what the story is about. Just all I know is that it's a movie coming out at the end of this year. Hopefully we'll get a trailer soon, probably in time for Onward. A trailer for Raya and the Last Dragon will probably play in front of Onward in March. So we'll get something soon, I'm pretty sure. I only have one left on my list, and that is on December 18th. We are getting the movie Dune. Now Dune is being directed by Denis Villeneuve. If you're not familiar with his work, he directed movies like Prisoners, Sicario, Arrival, and my favorite of his, Blade Runner 2049. I love that movie. I think it's amazing. It is so sad that it didn't make more money than it did. But I digress. Dune is being directed by him. If you're not familiar with Dune, it is one of the most popular and hailed as the greatest science fiction novel ever written. It's kind of science fiction with a little bit of fantasy mixed into it. I actually haven't read it, and I also haven't seen the movie that came out in the 80s. But I have full faith in this director. Anything that he does, I'm going to go watch, and I'm going to really enjoy, most likely. I don't like Sicario very much, but all of his other movies I think are just fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to Dune. We'll see how it is. At least visually, it's going to be phenomenal. Absolutely just crazy good. I don't even know, like, I'm kind of wanting almost to go in blind to this movie and just let Denis Villeneuve tell me a story. Just let him give me a movie. And I would be perfectly happy with that. I probably am going to read the book before it comes out, though. So I have until December. And like, I'm reading the Wheel of Time books right now. If you're not familiar, it's a 14 long fantasy series. So I'm reading those right now. Maybe I'll read Dune once I'm done them. Yeah, and that's it. From March to December, I've got nothing for January or February. So those are 20 movies that are coming out. There are some that are coming out that obviously I haven't listed. I didn't talk about Birds of Prey because I think it looks stupid. I didn't talk about Venom 2 because I didn't like the first one. And a bunch of other movies that I did not list. So I will run through them one more time really quickly just to recap these 20 movies. So we've got Onward, A Quiet Place Part 2, Mulan, The New Mutants, No Time to Die, Black Widow, Artemis Fowl, Wonder Woman, Soul, Top Gun Maverick, Tenet, Jungle Cruise, Morbius, The King's Man, Death on the Nile, Halloween Kills, The Eternals, Godzilla vs. Kong, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Dune. So those are my most anticipated movies for 2020. If I had to pick one to be my most anticipated, I want to say probably Soul or Dune. Those ones would be my top 2 picks. Soul in June or Dune in December. One of those two. I'm also really looking forward to Death on the Nile. I just can't wait for that one at all. But I would love to know, what is your most anticipated movie of 2020, or if you want to give me a top 5 or top 20. Please feel free to let me know. Reach out to me on social media. You can find me on Twitter at PoddleNathan and on Instagram at Poddle Productions. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the show. You can do so on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify, and a bunch of other places. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It really means a lot to me. And if you have nothing else to do, go watch more movies.